Is he the MVP today?
You know what? As phenomenal as he has been, and he may very well end up winning MVP, I wouldn't give it to him just yet. When I think about him, he's completed 70% of his passes, and we know 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But I'd remind the world that there's a guy in Seattle by the name of Russell Wilson who's got about 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season, is completing about 75% of his passes, and he's also undefeated. And so when I take into account what I've seen him do and the level of competition he's done it against, I got to give props where props is due and say, you know what, that's not something that I would give just yet. I understand anybody that thinks about Aaron Rodgers. We know how I feel about him. But in the end, when I think about Russell Wilson, again, Atlanta, New England, Dallas, Miami, I get all of that. But in the end, I'm thinking about how phenomenal he's been. I'm thinking about the 75% completion percentage, and I'm thinking about the fact that he's been doing this for quite some time, but he's gotten even better this year. They've amped it up since they're throwing the football more than they ever have in his career. Right now, I would give him a slight edge, but obviously there's a long way to go.
If I had to vote for MVP right now, not that I have a vote, but if I did, I would have to give it to Aaron Rodgers. 13 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4-0, including 2 divisional wins and a win against the Saints. Now, next week after the Bucs game, we'll have a better understanding if, in fact, you can still make that argument. Tom Brady has his team in first place 3-1 and is surrounded by weapons. Aaron Rodgers is surrounded by no one anyone has ever heard of. And also, he doesn't have a great defense, and yet he's 4-0. ESPN Stats and Info tweeted out a great stat on Rodgers this morning, Stephen A. He has, through 4 games, the highest QBR since QBR started being tracked in 2006. So QBR, I believe, came out after 2006, but they went back and looked since 2006. The highest QBR since 4 games is Aaron Rodgers. In 4 games since 06 is Aaron Rodgers. Second and third on the list is Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. In each of the seasons, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were second and third, behind where Rodgers is now. They not only won MVP, but they set the touchdown record in a single season. Like, Rodgers is doing stuff that you just don't see. Last year, he was getting used to a new offense, it seemed, but also, given his age and his athletic ability, where he doesn't have to be as technically perfect as some other guys because he has this supernatural ability practically, right? Guys like that, sometimes the great athletes, decline a little more rapidly than other players who have to rely on mechanics, right? Because once that athletic advantage dissipates, they haven't been forced to fall back on perfect technique all the time. So I wondered about Rodgers last year. Is it just getting used to a new offense, or is he slipping? Is he getting older? Oh, it was just getting used to a new offense, where they went 13-3 and won a playoff game against Russell Wilson, by the way. But now it looks like the handcuffs are off. He's totally comfortable. He is back to doing superhuman things. The only quarterback, to me, actually in Rodgers' class is Patrick Mahomes. And as great as Russell Wilson has been, I think Aaron Rodgers through 4 games has been even better.
Okay, Max, hold that thought, because I want to bring in a friend of the family to join this love fest. Marcus Spears gracing our screens right now. Marcus, where are you on Rodgers being the MVP today?
Listen, Aaron Rodgers is not the MVP today. It's Russell Wilson. And I was with Max alone until that Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers statement. From a talent standpoint, I understand. But Russell Wilson right now is playing elite football. And didn't we just watch New England only give up 10 points to the Kansas City Chiefs for almost 3 quarters? Russell Wilson threw 5 touchdowns on Bill Belichick's defense. That in itself alone is enough right now to still have Russell Wilson leading the clubhouse in the MVP conversation. And yeah, I get it. Look, I'm with it. Aaron Rodgers is right there, and the conversation is heating up about him being the top dog in the MVP conversation. But right now, it's Russell Wilson. Look, I understand getting hype about last night and not having Devontae Adams and Lazard and what he's doing devoid of weapons and talent, but also they went 13-3 last year, and he played well. But Russell Wilson right now, because of not only his performances in all of the other games, when you throw 5 touchdowns against a Bill Belichick defense, and we look at what they are doing defensively where they are not good, and you win that game, I got to leave Russell Wilson out ahead based on that performance alone.
Well, first of all, I think it's incredibly important, Marcus Spears, that when you appear on this show, if you want to win any kind of argument, the first thing you need to avoid is saying you agree with Max about anything. That's wise. Number one. Number two, when we look at Aaron Rodgers, let's take into account what we do. First of all, Minnesota, to start off the week, you know I'm only playing with you, Max, buddy. Here's the deal. You start off week one, you're going up against Minnesota. Their secondary is compromised. Don't get me started with Detroit in week two, okay? Now, obviously, you got New Orleans. They were having some troubles, particularly with Michael Thomas out of the lineup on the offensive side of the ball, even though they still dropped 30 on Green Bay. Green Bay won that game. And then, of course, last night, do I really need to get into the Atlanta Falcons? We knew from weeks ago when they blew that game against the Dallas Cowboys, I was done with them. Their idiotic selves, you know, sitting up there and treating an onside kick as if they were punting a damn football, for crying out loud. The way their own people were running away from it, just embarrassing and idiotic, dumb, and they will forever be scarred by that as far as I'm concerned. We'll talk about Bill O'Brien yesterday losing his job. I'm wondering why Quinn still has his in Atlanta. That's a different story for another day. In the end, when we look at Russell Wilson, we have to take into account what Marcus just said about the 5 TD passes, the 16 touchdowns on the season, the 75% completion percentage. We've got to take all of those things into consideration along with the level of competition that he's done it against, which primarily at this point has been New England. And that's why I got to look at Russell Wilson and give him that nod, particularly playing in a conference where you assume San Francisco and the Rams are going to have something to say about who wins the division when all is said and done, even though Chicago has been a pleasant surprise to some degree before they lost this last weekend. The bottom line is that if you're Green Bay coming into the season, fresh off a 13-3 record and a trip to the NFC Championship game, were you really anticipating that Chicago and Detroit, you know, or Minnesota with their plethora of injuries, particularly in their secondary, would be a factor? No. Seattle knew this about their division, and they've responded to the challenge. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.